Leon gave her a provocative smile. He shook the branch in his hand and said the next words lightly. "This is just a branch. Queen, do you call the branch weapons?" Roswitha looked up disapprovingly. "Weren't you once the strongest dragon slayer? Seriously, this branch can also be used as a weapon for killing in your hands, right?" Leon closed his eyes and sighed, his expression easing. He put down the tree branch, knowing that he couldn't fool Roswitha anymore, and also realizing that there was something hidden in her words. He slowly approached Roswitha, with a look on his face like he had read her inner thoughts. He spoke to her in a joking tone. "She-dragon, if you want to praise someone, praise them well. What's the point of being sarcastic?" Roswitha reluctantly turned her head and stepped back slightly, not wanting Leon to get close to her. She seemed unwilling to admit that what Leon said was true. "Bah! Who praised you?" Leon walked towards the bench next to him with a branch in his hand, feeling somewhat dissatisfied. "Tisk, I just want to scare you. But if you're not afraid, it's boring." After hearing what Leon had to say, Roswitha spread her hands, indicating that his little ploy had little intimidating effect on her. She followed Leon and headed for the bench as well. "I don't think your current body can hurt me with a twig." The sun set slowly, its orange-red glow showering over them, and casting their shadows on the ground. At this moment, the sunset was like flames, slowly dyeing the entire blue sky into a beautiful orange red. Then, the sunset cast its light onto the training ground. The weapons on the training ground were shining brightly under the sunset. Leon and Roswitha sat on a bench, basking in the sunlight of the setting sun. At this point, Roswitha told Leon about the letter Noah had written to her. "Yesterday, Noah wrote to me. She said she was doing fine for a few days and told us not to worry." Leon waited for a while and found that Roswitha hadn't continued speaking. He turned his head and asked her with some surprise, "Is there anything else? Is it that short?" Roswitha's gaze softened, and she gazed into the woods not far away. She wagged her tail and replied to Leon in a gentle tone. "No, it's already rare for her to proactively write a letter back to report her safety." Leon nodded and turned his head back a little helplessly. He also knew that Noah had always been this character. "That's right. She looks a lot like you in this regard." He crossed his hands and placed them at the back of his head, leaning casually against the back of the bench. He looked up at the beautiful sunset and talked to Roswitha about Noah. She always has a tight little face, making it hard to guess what's really going on in her heart. However, as long as you find the right way, we can still get along very happily. Roswitha also looked up at the sky with Leon and mentioned to him Noah's evaluation of him. "Noah actually admires you quite a bit. She has a typical dragon mentality, longing for the strong." As soon as she thought of Noah talking about the image of Leon in her own heart, Roswitha couldn't help but chuckle softly. She covered her mouth while looking at Leon. "You are now seen as a top student in her heart. So she said she wants to achieve many first places in the academy. She never wants to lose to you." Leon was a little surprised to hear Roswitha say that he was a role model for Noah to learn from. After all, he had never heard Noah say that before. He recalled that Noah had frowned and said some negative comments to him, such as saying he was an idiot, he was weak, and so on. He scratched his cheek and said awkwardly, "I thought in her mind, I was just a weak nerd." Roswitha snorted a little. She took off her shoes and talked to Leon about Noah's past. "When you first woke up, Noah kept avoiding you, right? But in fact, during your coma, she often went to see you. Occasionally, when I found her, she would excuse herself by saying she was looking for Muin." Leon also chuckled softly when he heard what Roswitha said. "Haha, this is also very similar to you." Roswitha tucked her slender legs away and wrapped both arms around her knees, shrinking herself down on the bench. She watched the sunset in front of her and continued to say to the previous things. When they were babies, they cried and no one could coax them well. But as long as someone puts them by your side, they will immediately calm down. Perhaps before they have their own consciousness, blood ties have already tightly linked you together. In Roswitha's memories, Leon remained unconscious and lying in bed. His arms gently embraced Noah and Muin, who were still infants. The two little babies have stopped crying and are sleeping quietly under their father's arms. Noah gently held Leon's fingers, while Muin gently pulled Leon's clothes. This scene looked really harmonious between father and daughters. Leon looked at his hand with some trance. He muttered to himself, "Bloodline? It's a bit unfamiliar." For Leon, the word bloodline has little to do with him. He recalled some of the things he experienced when he was a child. "I am an orphan who never experienced parental love when I was a child, and I don't understand what family affection is." Young Leon had no one to rely on around him. He curled himself up into a ball, trying to comfort his lonely self. "When I was 5 years old, my master and master's wife adopted me. Even though I have no blood relationship with them, they treat me like a son. Since then, Leon has a home and someone he can rely on. And that is his master and master's wife behind him." Although Leon had a home, he still felt like he lacked something. When he saw his parents and children passing by him, the laughter of the children and parents, and the harmonious atmosphere of the family made Leon envious. "I have the concept of home for the first time, but occasionally, I feel a sense of loss in my heart." Leon crouched down and shrunk himself into a ball. He kept his head down, looking a little lost. "If only my master and master's wife were my true parents." At this moment, Master's wife noticed Leon's emotions and quietly walked over. She also squatted down and touched Leon's head to comfort him. "Leon, you will become father in the future." He repeated what she had said with confusion. "Father?" For Leon, who has no parents, he can't imagine what he would be like after becoming a father. Master's wife smiled and explained to him, "Yeah, they'll be the family you'll want to love, protect, and give everything to." Leon stood still, looking at Roswitha standing not far away, as well as Noah and Muin waving at him. Now that Leon has grown up, he understands what his master's wife said to him at that time. Leon walked out of his memories. He quietly clenched his fists, as if he could still feel the warm touch of Noah and Muin's fingers when they were still infants. That's right, they are the family members I cherish the most now. Roswitha watched Leon stare at his hand motionlessly for a long time and kindly reminded him, "What's wrong with you? We should go back." It was only when Leon heard her voice that he realized he had been lost in thought for such a long time. He stood up awkwardly and replied to Roswitha's words. "Ah, well, nothing. Thank you for telling me that. So, let's go back. Ha ha ha." However, Roswitha did not stand up with Leon. She moved her shoes to Leon with her feet and pointed to them. Leon didn't quite understand Roswitha's action. He frowned and asked her in confusion, "What?" A sly smile appeared on Roswitha's face. "If you want to thank me, help me put on my shoes." Leon looked at her with a bewildered expression and was somewhat speechless about her demand. "Huh?"
Wait a moment, please. I have already opened an Instagram account. Welcome everyone to follow my Instagram account. Send me a screenshot of your follow page via private message on Instagram, and you can get the wallpaper of Shut Up Evil Dragon for free.